just reminded me. Do you remember Peter Van Hook, the drummer?
Yeah, of course.
Peter has a way with forgetting what the correct words. He often referred to the three tenors as the three Pavarottis.
Do you remember, Chris, when we were in Paris with Sheena and Van Hook was out there?
What's that?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
And we ended up in a club, and we were all coming out of the club.
The Millionaires Club.
I think so. And coming out, and Pete wasn't there. And someone went back in to look for him. I think it was actually me that went in and found him. And he'd just fallen asleep in the toilet up against he'd put his hand up against the wall and he'd just gone to sleep.
I remember, yeah. And we were going back to the studio.
That's right.
In the morning, somebody noticed that a shoe was missing, a boot. We said, Pete, where's your shoe? And he said, I don't know, I've no idea. I said, you haven't left it in the toilet back in the club, have you? And he said, oh, probably. And he couldn't be asked going back to get it. And he walking home, like back to the bungalow. You were there, Mo, weren't you?
Yeah, it was good. There's a moment that defines Pete. I used to do, he and Rod Argent used to do producing together up at Rod's studio, up the A6. And I would drive up, pick up Pete in Radlett and then drive on. And I got there early for a cup of tea and he'd be vaguely awake, but not really. And we're sitting in the kitchen and the mail had just arrived and he started opening a letter, some business letter. And he scanned it in a kind of very confused way, sort of, and sees the signature at the bottom. And he didn't see this as a joke or anything. He just went to what came out. He's on the phone. He says, hello, can I speak to Squiggle, please? Ridiculous.
Oh, because I remember when one session that went on far too long and it was literally 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And Pete was struggling with this new computer that he got and everything with Pete. You know, he always, everything was on the fly. You know what I mean? He never sorted it out before the session.
Yeah.
He was always learning on your session. And it was about 2 or 3 in the morning and we were all like this. And he said, no, don't, I'm nearly there. And this was early days of computers, very early days. And he could see him scratching him. He's going, and we were all just, none of us were talking. We were so tired. And all you could hear was the keyboard going. And then Pete suddenly said to himself very softly, fatal error. And then the computer went, boom. That just made a noise out. And that was, you know, we'd lost 7 hours work of it.
Sorry, Chris, I interrupted you.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just asking Mo if he remembers the Wild Things session with Fancy and Alan Hawkshaw.
Yes.
The Hawk of Radlett. He said, I can do you a special deal because I got all the latest computer stuff. And I said, what computer stuff? Oh, he said, I've got a lot of keyboards, everything. So I said, okay, come on. We just want you for a sort of 20-second solo in the middle. So he disappears outside to the car park, comes back with boxes of speakers. And finally, they grow like this. And he's in the middle of them. We could barely see the guy. And then he plays, you remember, real old synthesizer sound and everything. And he said, is that all right? I said, Hawk. I said, perfect, no problem. He said, good. He said, I better put my bill in now. I said, you want to put it in now? He said, just in case you tear it up and throw it away. He said, it's £400. I said, £400? Yes. This was 1973. The Hawk of Radlett.
Oh, yeah.
We've been doing a French session at Trident Studio. Lots of gaps. And in every gap, he'd start playing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue.
Yes.
And then we'd be called, the red light would go on, and he'd stop. End of that take, he'd carry on exactly where he left off. So throughout the whole week, he played the whole piece, but in about 800 sections. It's great.
Here are some categories, I think. I'll just throw some categories out there to maybe jog some memories. I mean, it's slightly different with a lot of you today, because obviously being producers, you're in the studio, and in the past on Rocktails we've had sort of, well, I know Mo's been touring. A lot of you have toured and travelled, but often we ask about live show jitters, travel nightmares. Missed deadlines, no shows. Has anyone failed to show up on stage or at a studio? Unexpected happenings or events.
I've
surreal
got
moments.
I've got a great missed deadline. I remember audio. I don't know whether it had gone wrong in the diary or what had happened, but it's own up time now, and I ended up in a situation where I had to finish one project, and it had run into the day that I was starting the next project. I could get into trouble for this. So,
speak up, please. Speak up. Please speak
Am I
up.
on record here? Yeah. Okay, I'm in record. Yeah.
do you remember Roy Parsons, Chris? Remember the engineer, Roy? He had big, thick maintenance engineer audio with the big, thick glasses, And basically, we had finished this mix at 2:00 in the morning, and the next session was supposed to start at 10. And we had to get it wasn't one of yours, Chris. It was another project. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So he says now.
It definitely wasn't you. But it was a project. I think I knew I couldn't finish this mix in time, and I knew at 10:00 the next band was coming in, and we were working all the way through the night. And about 8:00 in the morning, I said to Roy, who had come in to start setting the studio up for the new session and lining up tape machines, I said, Roy, I'm not going to make it. I need the studio for today. We're going to have to figure out some way of delaying the 10:00 session. He said, I know exactly what we'll do. We'll blow up a capacitor, right? I'll get a big capacitor, and we'll put it under the sofa in the control room. Remember that sort of leather sofa down in front of the desk? And he said, I'll wire it up to the maintenance room, which was upstairs. You just give me the nod. I'll flick a switch, and it'll go bang, and there'll be a lot of smoke. I'll come down and I'll just tell them the studio's broken. They'll go home, and then you can carry on your session, and we'll start it the next day. So I said, yeah, and it was really a rock against a hard place. I didn't have anywhere to go other than this. So the band went out to get some breakfast, and I still had everything sort of on the tape machines. The new session were coming in, and it was like, okay, great. So we're going to be doing this. And every 5 minutes, Roy was poking his head round the maintenance room door going, now, should I detonate it now? And no, wait a minute. So let's have a coffee. And then Darko went, yeah, okay, detonate it now. He went up to the maintenance room and pushed the plunger on this capacitor. And the thing, honestly, the sofa lifted off the ground about 3 inches, the room filled with smoke. And he came down and gave this Grammy-winning, an Oscar-winning performance of, oh, no, I think the power supply is blown up. I think we're going to have to do this. The other session went out to the studio. The old one came back in. We finished, and the next day we started. That's a missed deadline.
Well, I think you'll be hearing from somebody's attorney first thing in the morning.
I noticed you didn't mention any names there.
Yeah,
very the band.
Mike, what was that? You told me a story about touring with Dusty when you had a problem with getting an amplifier on stage.
Oh, no. Was it the one with De Montfort Hall, Leicester? And we're playing the De Montfort Hall. And as we drove in for the sound check in the afternoon, which in those days was so basic it wasn't true, we saw a poster for the show that night. And down sort of third on the list was the Lana Sisters, with whom Dusty used to be, you see. So Dusty looked at this poster. She said, bloody hell, that Riss. I hate their guts, all 3 of them. So I thought, oh, this is a good, promising evening. It's going to be. So we got into the De Montfort Hall, and the Lana Sisters are doing their little sound check. and they sang Scarlet Ribbons, which was in our act. Tradition in those days used to be that whoever got to do their sound first, their rehearsal, as it was basically called, if you put a song in that someone else had coming later, you did it. You took preference over them. So Dusty was livid. And there was a wonderful point in the show that night where she would come forward from the Lana Sisters, Riss. She would come forward and she'd go in a horrible sort of way, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in our show, we'd love to do that will reach out and touch your hearts. And she's doing all this. I'm standing in the wings watching her thinking, oh my God. And suddenly someone nudged my arm and I turned around and Dusty's standing there with a tea tray, with crockery mounted up on the tea tray. And she said, give me a nudge. I said, what? She said, give me a nudge. I said, what are you talking about? I said, come with the show's on. She said, oh, fuck it. And she threw it up in the air like this. And as she threw it up in the air, she shouted out, he tripped me. Stage manager came and got hold of me and they threw me out of the theatre. And our manager had to come and get me released.
She was fantastic. Guys, I just need to ask you. Sorry, I need to sort of go in a minute.
No problem.
Can I come back?
Yeah.
What,
it's very informal. You can come and go as you please. It's no problem at all. Thank you for your contribution.
No, it's just I'm so bored. No.
You haven't noticed. I've been and gone 3 times while we've been here.
Is that the card of you? Yeah, that's good.
Well, I disappeared a moment ago. My Wi-Fi dropped out. I had to go back on the cell phone.
The cutout.
Yeah.
Oh no, it won't be long. But if you're still there, I'll come in. Otherwise,
I'm sure we'll be here.
Because I have an intriguing story about Mo.
How intriguing! Yes, we'll
a prank.
Then you have to come back.
Yes,
and Greg as well.
Thank you for teasing that, and we'll see you. We'll see you later.
All right, I'll see you in a bit.
Checks in the post.
Oh, thank you, but not to me.
Not to you. No.
Which name is it under? Okay, bye.
Chris, what was it? You who had the story at the drill hall, Dumfries?
Oh God, yeah, the drill hall. The drill hall, Dumfries. Come with me if you will. The drill hall, Dumfries, 1968. No, I'm amazed you remember that.
Oh, these stories I never forget. I remember them very fondly.
Well, this is going to get really bizarre now because I was singing in a band that Mike Hurst produced.
What? Which band?
I was singing in a band from Manchester. I grew up in Manchester. And you produced some singles. I can't remember what year that was. 67, 68. Anyway, I was touring Scotland with this band. The band was called the Chuckles. It was like a vocal group.
The Chuckles! Yes!
I was the lead singer.
Amazing, Chris. I've forgotten that.
So we're playing in the drill hall, Dumfries, and Gerry Rafferty and I swapped stories years later about the drill hall, Dumfries. But I was, 2 sets as normal. You go on at, 7:30, 7:45, first set, and there's this the drill hall, Dumfries, looks exactly as it sounds. It was built as a drill hall in 1890. So there's this vast hall, and we're playing. And the 6 girls dancing around their handbags. That's it, in this huge cavernous hall. And obviously they weren't thinking about acoustics in 1890, whatever, then whenever they put. And it was horrible. I mean, there was a whole second slap back off the back wall as you were playing. And then when we went on, it was a Saturday night. And when we went on for the second set, it was, 11:15 or something. There were so many people in there. It was so packed because the pubs had closed. You could literally have walked on their heads. It was absolutely rammed. And being Saturday night in Dumfries, a lot of fights break out. So fortunately, the stage was like a good 8 foot above the floor, which is probably just as well. So we were playing, and at some point there was a fight, either full blown in the middle of, just beginning to kick off, or at the dying embers of a fight, you know, where the women were pulling the guys away. And I mean, there was no bottles or knives or anything. It was all just fisticuffs. But at one point there was a fight everywhere you looked. Bath Hall, there was fists flying and shrieking and everything. And I was singing, and I looked at the our lead guitarist, who was weeping with laughter. And at first, I'm on autopilot because no one can hear a thing we're playing. And I look at him and I think to myself, why is he laughing? And then he just went like, and I realized we were playing You've Lost That Loving Feeling. Well, there was 400 people punching the shit out of each other. It was.
And Chris, here are some of the songs you sang. Never, Painting the Day.
Yeah, Never is, you produced Never, I think.
Yeah, Making Love to Life, and I Thought You Thought.
Yeah, we didn't write those. I think we were told to do them.
I didn't tell you.
No, I can't remember who it was. But, no, we were signed to Kennedy Street. That was it. And I think that was the connection. We ended up with
Danny Batesh.
Danny Batesh, that was it, yeah. Yeah, but it was the drill hole Dumfries. Gerry then actually told me something very similar. He had a knife held to his throat. And so if anyone's doing the drill hole Dumfries in the next few weeks, I would...